Perfect. Okay, I'm going to kick us off. So, Darren, so great to be with you today. You are actually our first non-customer interviewee for Coffee with CloudWerx. So, welcome. Very honored to have you here. I'm going to kick us off and then send it over to you to get the 10,000 foot view, and then we're going to dive in and learn a little bit more about specifically what led you to this place. And I have a bunch of juicy questions for you here today. But before we get started, my name is Betsy Reed. I am the CRO and co-founder of CloudWerx. We are a Google exclusive GCP and workspace resell and service partner. So 100% committed to Google and supporting customers in their cloud journey today and then as they evolve in the future. And I'm here with Darren Mowry and thrilled to have you on Coffee with CloudWerx. So Darren, tell us a little about you. What are you doing today? And what has you so excited about being a part of the Google team?
Yeah, perfect, Betsy. It's great to be here, and I'm honored to be the first non-customer. That's a big deal. I hope I maximize the time I have with you. So yeah, listen, I've had the opportunity to be on some really great adventures from a career perspective. Early days and the early days of Microsoft, having the chance to be a part of Microsoft's early mission to show that what we were building at that time were enterprise ready, and that insurgency and mission was really fueling for me in the early days. I then had the chance after 10 years at Microsoft to transition over to AWS, where again, what an incredible opportunity to kind of help the world completely think differently about IT and computing. And I had the chance to join a very small team to build AWS's very first field sales organization. I spent some time doing that in North America, moved to Sweden and opened up and led in kind of Northern Europe for a while, moved to London and had a number of different roles, including leading the UK and then leading EMEA overall before departing AWS again after 10 years, having a little bit of a stint in the actual startup marketplace and then returning ultimately to the cloud. I just can't stay away from the cloud and decided, hey, being at Microsoft, being at Amazon, let's come over here and join the mission at Google. My wife always teases me that I need to go work at the Apple store next just to check all the boxes. But I think I have a long, exciting career ahead at Google Cloud.
Yes, awesome, wonderful. So you've seen a lot of transformation in your career, correct? What do you think is one of the most, like what we're facing today, the next big thing coming up? What has you most excited about technology and transformation that we're going to see in the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think it's actually more profound today, honestly, Betsy, than it may have even been 5 months ago, frankly, because there's two things I think that I'm seeing and experiencing every single day. On one hand, the nature of the cloud is different than what it was, at least in the early days for me, right? In the sense of in the early days, we were convincing the world that infrastructure as a service was something that could be trusted. It was highly performant, it was secure, it was cost effective. And frankly, I feel like we've really moved past those days. While there's still a lot of chatter and focus from a lot of companies on infrastructure like compute and storage, one of the drawing factors to me here at Google Cloud and a lot of the work we're doing together as partners is on higher value added outcome based opportunities for customers, right? We're talking about data and analytics. We're talking about open computing. We're talking about security and collaboration, all with kind of a sustainable back end. And so the fact that I haven't spoken to a customer in almost a year and a half about an instance, a compute instance, is a pretty big shift from prior experience. And I think a pretty special place, not only for us as partners, but I think that's this leading indicator of customers don't want to talk about compute. They want to talk about outcomes. And outcomes come from the application of the really cool technology we can build together. The other thing, though, that I think is even more timely is this whole AI, artificial intelligence thing. I just ended a really great session with 3 founders, and we're going to have some time within the startup community at our startup summit coming up soon. One of the things that's coming out loud and clear is AI is truly transformational, right? This is not a passing fad. This is not something that just happens to catch the headlines. This is probably as transformational as the cloud itself. But what's really important, and I just met with a founder who said this beautifully, was AI is not the thing. It's the outcomes that AI drives is the thing. And I think that brings us back to, again, the partnership that we're building of helping customers in a controlled and understandable way process some of these complex topics and convert those topics to things that actually make a difference for their business. So in my opinion, Google Cloud's position as a challenger in the space, but also just as a really one of the main sources of innovation, specifically in AI,
Mhm,
it's a
mhm,
fascinating time to be here.
mhm,
We haven't even begun to see how big this is going to be, I believe.
mhm. Absolutely. And as you bring that up too, when we talk about solutions and specifically AI, these are living, breathing organisms. These are not finite products, widgets that we're selling, right? They evolve as the customer's needs evolve. And so even to that point, every solution or new technology transformation truly needs to be malleable, right?
Mhm.
And so when you say AI, it's today, it's tomorrow, but it is intelligent, right? So it's developing and growing in value
Totally.
every day, every second. So really, really interesting. And I love that we obviously share a passion for the startup community, and it was so fun to have you at that event in February. So um, it's fun to have your finger on the pulse too of the movers and the shakers and the people that are
Totally.
innovating every single
Thrilling.
day.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Very good. So you've had a number of leadership roles at some of the top companies, right? And now you're bringing that leadership to bear at Google Cloud. I have the opportunity to work with your directors and managers and the reps under you at your organization, which has been really fun and continues to be. As a leader myself, could you share some of your ethos, or what are the foundational pillars that you use in your day to day as a leader to really achieve the outcomes, right? But it's like you can achieve the outcomes and have a terrible time doing it. You can achieve the outcomes and have a somewhat fantastic time doing it. So share a little bit about your leadership philosophy.
Yeah,
Philosophy.
that's a big question. I'll do my best to unpack it in a few specific ways, but
Yeah.
thank you for that. Because listen, I think all of us are on a journey. For me as a
Mhm,
leader, and I say this constantly to the folks I have the chance to work with, I am far from being the leader that I aspire to be. And every day I'm trying to wake up understanding that. And that means that sometimes I'm going to nail it. I'm absolutely going to be crushing it. We're all going to be doing what we need. But guess what?
right.
A lot of times I'm not going to show up the way I need to. And thankfully, I'm so thankful to be a part of a team and a broader organization that's helping me individually and also, frankly, allowing me to contribute back as well. So there's a few things that anyone that works with me knows will be kind of in my ethos, good or bad.
Mhm,
One is just speed. And what I mean by speed is speed in every way. One, I love to, you can see the things behind me. I love fast
mhm,
cars. I love being on a track. But I also just believe that speed matters in technology. It really matters in this next wave of cloud and in AI. And so I also, as a leader, like to operate at a very fast pace. And I like to surround myself with people that also want to move fast and break things, as the quote
mhm,
says. And so
mhm,
I believe that absolutely speed and momentum matter. I also believe that while I'm not a physicist, I also talk a lot to my teams about the fact that if there's more force behind an object than there is in front of it, the object will move forward. And so that's the extent of my physics background, by the way.
mhm.
But that applies to businesses, to deals, to teams, to individuals. And so I spend a lot of time asking our teams, what are the headwinds that are keeping us from making progress on this,
Mm,
whether it be
mm,
a individual opportunity or a macro strategy, right? So
mhm,
it's really these resisting forces, and what do we need to do to control and influence those forces to reduce the impact so that ideally all the energy we're putting into these things allow us to move forward. And that's a leadership ethos as well that I use personally daily and that I
mhm,
very much embed in the way that I'm working with folks. Also, if you spend any time with me at all, you'll know that I'm an optimist. And what I mean
mhm,
by that is I still choose to wake up in the morning and I choose for myself to identify the opportunity that we have to make a
mhm,
difference with customers, to make a difference with partners, and to make a difference with each other. And so I not only want that from the leaders and the folks I work with, I also really try to bring that energy to the organization of,
mhm,
listen, we get to work at Google Cloud in an incredibly
mhm,
transformational time. And while there's a lot of headwinds and a lot of
mhm,
chaos, you know what? That's a pretty amazing place to be. And to kind
mhm.
of remind
Sure.
yourself of those things, I think is powerful.
There's no one. I had chills a couple times when you were mentioning that. A couple of very shared ethos on my side, but also I can attest to your demonstration of that just in our interactions. The speed component, I move super fast as well. So incredible, and you can definitely see how that ethos has been shared amongst your team, and I'm sure is part of why you created the team in which you did. So
Great.
very cool. So Google Cloud, some changes have happened this year. I'm not going to impart my, editorial on that. I've done that in a number of ways. So I want to hear from you. some of the changes relative to the flex agreements, some of the changes to just what we're offering to customers, and some of the solutions that we're bringing to bear that Google has invested in or is evolving to provide. Share your thoughts on some of these changes and the evolution of Google Cloud and the offerings to customers, and what has you excited about those, and why the why Google Cloud. If you're sitting in the shoes as a business owner starting a business, whether born in the cloud or one of the more traditional with a multi or hybrid cloud, why Google Cloud?
Yeah, I think you've talked about two things there that I think are important. One is, as I said, I'm just under a year and a half. I still can't believe that at Google Cloud. And the Google Cloud I'm currently a part of is not the Google Cloud I joined in a very positive way, meaning the amount of forward momentum coming from Thomas Kurian and our leadership team around just thinking, what do customers need from us and how do we pivot the organization really quickly to show up and meet the customer where they are is the theme that we're constantly discussing. And that's showing up in a few ways. As you said, flex agreements and our contractual structures are flexing and bending themselves to make sure that we're reaching the customer again where they are. Not all customers, specifically startups, specifically today, want to go into committed agreements with any technology company. And so the fact that we can give them the flexibility of on-demand utility computing, but also make interesting and attractive pricing concessions, discount investment, alongside keeping the flexibility for the customer is really powerful. In fact, we've done some of these deals and opportunities with customers together, and the early signals are incredibly powerful that customers love what we're doing there. Organizationally, we're making a lot of very positive changes, and this is all about specialization. It's all about making sure that we're bringing the right vertical industry approach. It's that we understand, what do customers need, how do they want to buy and consume, and that our teams are purpose built to be able to be malleable and flexible in those situations. And those changes are natural for a company like ours going through a maturity curve, right, as a challenger. But a lot of those organizational shifts that have allowed us to show up very, very well, specifically in the startup space, which we're doing many of these things together, we're really doubling down on what we see as, again, just the beginning of another whole wave of growth. And that doesn't mean we're just offering a credit program, right? We will obviously offer credits to startups, but to all of us, credits are table stakes. What we want to do is to provide access to mentors and coaches, access to super advanced technology, make sure that we're talking to startups about the cloud, but also about partnerships. So what does their end customer want from them, and how can we unleash the power of Alphabet and Google overall to help these companies do amazing things? And that's a pretty compelling and interesting value proposition for us to bring to startups of all sizes. On one hand, our focus on outcomes, and we talked about that a lot, I've mentioned it today, is profound, and we're hearing that it is different than what people are experiencing, rather than here's a bunch of building blocks and products that we want to kind of talk a lot of time stitching together or talk, really get dazzled by the shiny object. We do really well, especially with partners like CloudWerx, in saying, what are you trying to achieve? Let's focus on the outcome and not get lost in the building block. You also mentioned multi and hybrid cloud, right? We live in a world where the old days of us thinking that a customer of any size, frankly, will choose one cloud, those days don't exist anymore. I have yet to meet a single startup, much less an enterprise, that has said we're only using one provider's set of technology. And so the fact that we can be open and multi-cloud and work in a hybrid model is giving us an incredible amount of tailwind that customers are telling us they appreciate. We also consider open, not just hybrid and multi-cloud, but the fact that we contribute massive amounts of our innovations back into the startup community and into the open source community. It's bringing a very interesting intimacy with the developer community between developers and Google Cloud. And there's some amazing knowledge sharing going on there as well. And the last thing that I'll say, because we can go down the secure cloud, we can talk about our collaboration suite, but I've got to say more and more the focus on sustainability, and not just words, but actual actions that we're taking as an organization to reduce our own carbon footprint, but also to partner with customers to reduce theirs, is converting something from something that sounds great in a Harvard Business Review article to actually an agenda item that customers are acting on. And man, what an incredible opportunity to touch on all of those things.
Absolutely. No, what you share is encouraging in a multitude of fashions. And as a partner, it is really refreshing working with a manufacturer who is so customer obsessed, right? And so as a partner that's reselling and servicing customers using Google Cloud, to be able to offer the flex agreements, to be able to offer these really solutions oriented offerings, to know that you're thinking about customers how we do. It makes things so it takes the friction out of the things where there shouldn't be friction, and allows us to
Right.
just work together toward that
Right.
shared outcome for the customer. So it's just wonderful. We couldn't be more thrilled with some the
Great.
changes, and then just the continued commitment to be customer focused. A few things to close us out. In terms of partners in general, you've probably worked with a number of them, and I'd love to hear from you. What are some of the pillars or the key elements of a partnership that you're looking for when you think through who to align your teams with, how to achieve joint successes? What are some of those important tenets that you're looking
Yeah.
for from partners?
Yeah, sure. Obviously, this is kind of the crux of the relationship that we've just started, and frankly, I don't even think we've begun to see all of the outcomes we're going to be able
Mhm,
to deliver for customers.
mhm,
When I think, and I'm going to also talk about CloudWerx specifically here, if that's all
mhm,
right. When I think of kind of a next generation partner, right? So kind of
mhm,
as we're evolving, what's that next generation of partnership look like? And I see that daily from what you and Jason and the team are building is a few things. So one, deep specialization in the technologies that matter. What I really appreciate about you and the partner ecosystem overall is it's very rare for an organization to be able to be deep specialists on every single thing that exists in the
mhm,
cloud. And
mhm,
so I think partnership is knowing what you're great at and doubling down in those areas. And that's something that
mhm,
I've seen you and the team do consistently is pick your swim lanes and be truly world class at those
mhm,
things, because that's what
mhm,
customers expect from us is we're
mhm,
going to bring in the best. And so I appreciate that. There's also a sense of speed, as we talked about,
mhm,
not only from a leadership perspective, but this market is moving at insane rates. And so,
mhm,
if we can have a relationship that operates with that same pace and that same velocity, that's a wonderful thing. It means we can touch more customers, we can engage more quickly, we can experiment with things differently. And so, you also have been a great testament to speed and velocity as we move forward. For me, in the business that I lead for Google Cloud, scale also significantly matters. So, in addition to being
mhm,
able to go deep from a specialization perspective, the tendency in the DNA to want to run things programmatically, meaning let's identify problems that hundreds or thousands of customers may face. And let's
mhm,
go and approach customers and cohorts and industries in a way where we're speaking to many people at once versus always focusing on a single buyer per
mhm,
se. And so,
mhm,
that from a partnership perspective is a really powerful element as well. And then I'll say it for the third time in our time today, and that is
mhm,
partners that want to talk about outcomes are key. The transaction is not the outcome, right? What is the outcome are services and really bright people from Google
mhm,
Cloud and CloudWerx partnering with the really bright people at our customers
mhm,
to create something different that they didn't have before, that reduces their costs, helps them acquire more customers, expand globally, filling in all of the priorities that we're hearing
mhm,
on a daily basis. But that's not necessarily the case, I would say, across
mhm,
the board. And so that DNA that you're bringing of
mhm.
outcome focused, providing the right services to accelerate results is a game changer for us. And we're hearing the same thing from our customers as well.
Awesome. Well, we will continue down that path and make sure to pivot wherever necessary, but we're definitely aligned on all those elements. So thank you. I know we're coming up on time, but my last kind of line of questioning here, Darren, is when you're not flying all over the country and or world, sending emails all hours of the night from United Wi-Fi. What do you like to do to unwind, have fun, family? Like, tell me a little bit about Darren behind the Google Cloud logo.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so there actually is a Darren behind the Google Cloud logo, no matter what people may think. So yeah, I'm at a really interesting phase of my life where my two daughters, who I still picture in my mind's eye as being
Mhm,
little girls, are now young women. They're 20 and
mhm,
19 years old, a
mhm,
sophomore in college and a freshman in college. One is studying biomedical engineering and is studying abroad in Sydney, Australia at the moment. We'll be returning back to Boston, where she goes to school soon. We miss her, but she's absolutely changing the world. And
mhm.
thankfully, I think gets her intellect from my wife, clearly, not from me, but is doing some amazing things. My other daughter is studying film and television in New York. And so is bringing really just an incredible view to me as to the arts and the creation of content in a whole new world. And she is living her best life on the streets of Manhattan as well. And that's very much the core of how I spend my time. I thankfully am
Mhm,
able to travel and see my daughters quite a bit. And frankly, I love trying to stay active, right? In a world
mhm,
where we're all working quite a bit. I've taken my own personal health kind of to a top priority over the last
Mhm.
year and a half, more so than in the recent past.
Mhm.
And that means great sleep, great diet, great exercise, and it's
Mhm.
helping me be a better leader, be a better employee, be a better husband, be a better father.
Mhm.
But man, the focus on just wellness and kind of being
Mhm.
healthy in the midst of a lot of stress and work is
Mhm.
something that I'd encourage all of us to be doing. So outside of that, and then responding to all of your emails, Betsy, that's about all I've got the time to
I
do.
love it. I love it. I love it. I appreciate how much time you've given me on this session. It was a joy to see you and spend a little bit more time talking together, as it always is.
Sounds great, Betsy. So appreciative of what you and the CloudWerx team are doing. As I said, we're
Mhm.
just at the beginning and we're going to have a lot of fun together and
Yes.
frankly dazzle a ton of customers. So let's go do it.
Let's do it. Okay. Thank you. Bye,
Great. Thank
Darren.
you, Betsy. All right. Bye bye.